Hey everyone, I'm Scott Brandley.
And I'm Alicia Coakley. Every member of the church has a story to share, one that can instill faith, invite growth, and inspire others.
On today's episode, we're going to hear how one man's journey to Jerusalem is leading him through the darkness in his pursuit of light, love, and joy. Welcome to Latter-day Lights. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Latter-day Lights. This one's kind of special because our guest is actually filming in Jerusalem right now. So we'd like to welcome back to the show, Devin Cummins. Devin, how you doing?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I am doing all sorts of emotions. It's been great. It's been scary. It's been everything. It's been a whole gamut of things.
Yeah, I have been
Just
following
grateful
you
to
on
be
your
here.
Instagram, and I'm just like, oh, like the things you're going through right now. It's not something I would want to go through, but you are getting some really cool stories out of it. So, and some of those stories you're going to share with us today, is that right?
That's right. That's right. I always have so many stories. I try to, even when I'm in the middle of a situation, a soup sandwich or whatever it is, I'm like, I wonder how I could talk about this. Like literally, like in the midst of things going awry, I'm like, could this like be a story? And it's like, yeah, probably. So here we go.
There you go. Well, this is
Yeah,
super
yeah, yeah.
excited. Yeah, and I'm really excited that you're back for a part two because on your last episode with us, there was still so much left of your story. So I am going to encourage our listeners, if you haven't listened to part one, go ahead, pause for a second, go back, listen to Devin's first episode that he shared with us, and just kind of, I guess, get a little caught up. I mean, even what you're sharing right now, obviously, you don't have to listen to the first part, but I think it just adds a little something knowing about your background and the things that you've gone through. And so if you want to maybe just give us a short little recap of like who you are, what your background is, just for those who
Yeah,
maybe haven't had a chance to hear that first part or who don't remember, I think that would be great.
yeah, sure. I always feel a little I don't know, like when I love talking about my experiences, but sometimes if I get caught into talking about myself, it feels a little I don't want it to come off like in any other way than I'm sharing who I am and not trying to be like boastful or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, did the so I joined the military when I was a teen. Actually signed up when I was 17, and then went to boot camp at 18. So I did the went to the Marine Corps, and I got a chance to go into different countries with training operations, including Israel, and trained with the Israeli Defense Force out here just for a little 3-week stint. And we were getting attacked at that time too during training. So just while we were there here while we were here. um, and so yeah, because we'll go into like how I ended up in currently in Jerusalem as I am right now. So essentially, got out of I did a deployment to Iraq. Got out of the military, went into the federal government in a federal law enforcement capacity for almost a decade, so about 9 years, and had experiences and opportunities with that. Even got involved with some nonprofit organizations that combat human trafficking, and so I was able to go to different countries for that. Yeah, and got to see a lot of different sides of the world for sure. And I, just talked about my journeys last time. I did 8 countries through South East Asia, and yeah, eight countries in 3 months. It was a pretty unique experience, a lot of different spiritual experiences. So I recapped on that and kind of ended on a point of where things kind of took a dark turn. But yeah, I came home and from my tour in Asia and ended up I was actually planning I was planning on coming to Vietnam. I had a one-way ticket and not to live, but just I was going to plan it as I went, and I was going to meet someone, and it fell through. And I couldn't really get a refund on my ticket, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to plan. I want to go around the world and with this thing, And so on February 22nd, I dipped out of here. I dipped out of the U.S. and I went to northern Vietnam, and then I flew to southern Vietnam, and I went into Cambodia for a couple of days, and it wasn't a part of the original trip, so I had to still fly back out of it. And what I experienced in Cambodia was super dark. What was interesting is, going through this whole thing, like I ended up getting robbed actually the night before. So this is wild. My first night, I end up deciding to take a leap of faith and was like, you know what? There's these cool little ships on the river, right next to the Mekong River. I wonder, like, are there cruises that people are taking? Like, what is? I was like, you know what, Devin? Just go on it and like see what goes. Turns out people just like the boat's docked, people get food, and then they all just kind of apparently then we undock and leave. And so we did. And so like I'm like getting some snacks, and then I feel the boat moving, and I look out on the bow, and yeah, they're like unhooking the boat. And I'm like, this is cool. Like, let's do this. And so we go, and like literally there's monks on this boat. There's like, there's locals, there's everybody. And I caught this really cool video, and there was like music, this Cambodian music playing in the background from the boat. And I recorded like this monk, like with like his, his robe is all draped, going in the wind. And we're coming up on this bridge with the Cambodian flag and LEDs on the, like, it was like surreal, I was like, this is cool. Wild. Yeah. Now I'm like on the front, and I'm by myself, and it's dark and it's night, and I'm going through the water, and just, it was this spiritual experience of like taking these leaps of faith and doing this. But I then shot myself in the foot, because I should have stayed on that vibe. And instead, I get off. So we come back, we dock, I get off the boat. And as I'm wandering, I end up at their palace. And what's interesting is as I'm sitting there, I sometimes have these experiences with Heavenly Father where he said, let's just chill for a minute. What do you see? Look around. What do you see? And I'm like, oh, and I always list off the things that I see. Oh, I see this, I see that, I see this. And then I look forward, and there's no joke, these two balloons, and that both balloons say love on them. Mm-hmm. And then I look next to it, and there's two more balloons, and they say love on them. And these people are trying to sell stuff on the street. And there was like this personal experience of what love, like his love for me, and like a reminder that he loves me. Nice. And yeah, it was really special. Yeah. And so as I'm walking, I'm trying to find my way back to my hotel, and I come down this other, not so much an alley, but like a darker street. There's a lot of markets through a lot of countries, and in some of these countries there's a lot of women markets that are trying to reel in the foreign guys to, there's like these drink bars where you buy them drinks and hang with them for an hour. There's also massage places. You're constantly getting yelled at to come to these places. Mm-hmm. And I was walking through the streets, and I'm like, thanks, and I stand out like a sore thumb, and these other workers are like, hey, come on in, come do the massage. And I'm like, I don't know, and they're like, no, come on. So I like walk up to them, they grab my hand, they're like, let's go. Mm-hmm. And I had like the feeling over me, and this is what I feel bad about, is I had the spirit being like, this is not a good idea. This is like, shouldn't be here. And I already had like thoughts like, in my head of like, okay, like, how are these girls going to be? What is going to happen? Like, and so I'm laying face down, and about 5-7 minutes later, they're like, okay, we're done. I got a phone call. I got to go. And I'm like, what? Oh, okay. Right. And, you put your stuff in like a locker too. Mm-hmm. And so I had, because they're known to steal people's things. And so I end up getting my stuff. I go, and I had this tuk-tuk driver, those tuk-tuks with the little, they have like their motorcycle with the little cart in the back. And so my tuk-tuk driver's like, hey, do we, I'll be around for $20 tomorrow. Like all of your locations. I'm like, wow, that's cool. All right. He's like, do we need to exchange any money? I was like, yeah. So we go to the place to exchange money, and I realized like I hand them the money to exchange, and they're like, this isn't real. I'm like, what do you? oh my gosh. And like everything just like sucks in. I'm like, why do I have fake $100 bills in my hand? Like what? So they took some of my Vietnamese currency, my Cambodian currency, and they took 700 US from me. And
Oh
Wow.
my
yeah.
gosh.
And so like, my stomach's dropped. Like I'm like, what is happening? So I tell my tuk-tuk driver, we go, I show him the location that I was at. He calls the police. The police, I take him, we take him over there. The police, okay, so this is where it gets a little shadier. The police know who the owner is at the shop and was like, will you settle for 400? The police is like, can we get you 400 back? It was 7.
No, there's 7.
450? 450?
Really?
No, nope, 7. How about we'll do 5? And I'm just like, but if we do this, then you got to end it here. Like, don't pursue any more money. Like after this, like pretty much don't go
Wow.
there. And he's like, and how
Wow.
much are you going to give me to help you? And then the tuk-tuk driver was like, yeah, I mean, like I'm helping you too. You couldn't do this without me. And I, if you would have listened to me, I could have taken you to. So I got a bit frustrated. When I
Oh
get,
my gosh.
I'm like, listen, man, I'm not, at one point I'm going to be walking the streets. Like, I'm not going to take a tuk-tuk everywhere. Like, that's what you do when you travel. You walk around. Like, and so, yeah, they end up giving me 500. And I'm like, I go to give the cop like 50. And he's like, no, it's okay. Cause I had mentioned, I'm like, you know what? I was a police in the States as well. And helping people's the job. Okay. And so I don't know how much he understood, but he ended up not taking on the money. And then my tuk-tuk driver got quite the paycheck for the day. Went from 20 to like 70 or 80 for the day. And so I gave him like a 50 that
Wow.
was kind of like worn, but I just, it set me off in the wrong way. And then I go to this genocide museum in Cambodia and saw how much the adversary has power over the hearts of children and men. And it's so evil, like evil. And the tuk-tuk driver's like, let me take you to the killing fields, which is essentially where they were doing the genocide for the Cambodians. They were like they were taking them there and killing them in the masses. And just, I mean, they killed, I don't know how many 100,000. I don't know. They killed so many people. And I didn't want to keep focusing on all the different facts and all the things. I was just like, okay, there's evil, move on. Yeah, I'm no stranger to that, but it's helping me realize more of what I'm, it's making me more aware of like my own weaknesses, my own temptations and things like that. So when I first got there, this little girl and her mom comes up to me. Well, this little girl does, and the mom's kind of standing back, and she wants to sell me, some things, right? So I end up getting this. And what's interesting is that I was struggling after this Cambodia thing, like going to these places. I was struggling. I felt like I was carrying around a lot of darkness. And what's interesting is I was praying and I felt the Spirit say, "Let's go for a walk." And as I'm walking, I went and ate something, and it was like, let's go for a walk. So as I'm walking, I wasn't going to share this part, but I think it's kind of funny. I like getting ice cream from time to time, and I felt like the feeling of, hey, like I'd like to get ice cream, and I waited for the feeling to be like, is that a good idea or not? Right? Like I'm kind of, and it was like, Devin, if that's what you decide, you just decide. But I was gonna stay in there and eat, and I felt the Spirit say, no, well, let's go for the walk. So I'm now with my ice cream and I'm going for the walk, and I end up at this corner. And what's interesting is I'm at this corner and I feel him say, okay, let's just pause here for a second. What do you see? And as I'm sitting there, this hostess walks up and starts kind of chatting with me. Hi, da da da, whatever. And the little girl that gave me this ends up walking up to me. That I saw the first night. Now this is the second night, and this little girl, the same kid, is wandered up to me, and I was like, "Hey, it's you. What's up? Hey," you know, and and it was like my amen of where you're at right now is where you're supposed to be.
Mhm.
You know, it was this God wink, and it was just of all the people, of all the hundreds and thousands, all the thousands of people in that community in the area, and I wasn't in the same spot that I was when I met this kid and her mom,
Mhm.
and now I'm here, and she ends up, because I'm kind of, everybody tells me I'm a sucker because I kind of am, and I end up getting like this little elephant, and
Cute.
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, I've been collecting all sorts of things, and so as I'm still walking back though, and I get a little picture with her and stuff, and I ended up putting that on Instagram. But when I was then heading back by my hotel, I'm almost back, and she pops up, and there's all these girls calling out to me, "Hey, come here!" Very pretty women, and I'm like, "Devin, focus!" Like, and literally felt the thing. If you guys have seen The Chosen, and he's like, "Don't look at him, look at me."
Mhm.
And I had that feeling of, don't look at them, look at me. And I looked away, and this little munchkin is now with her friend, and they come up, they're like, "Hey, can you buy us powdered milk?" And I'm like, "What?"
Mm.
Like, sure. So I went in and got both of them, which is pricey over there for them.
Really?
And so this isn't like, I don't list out all the things that I help with people, but like it was interesting that it was like, "No, no, this is the way. Nope, this is the way. Nope, this is the way. I'm gonna walk you home." And so I end up, you know, so I end up back in, the next morning. I'm still in Cambodia. I'm waiting for my flight. I'm at this mall, and I have this really weird darkness come with me, and my head's spinning. At one point, I was really uncomfortable to even feel the spirit, which is kind of strange. I feel like that's very of the adversary, not wanting the spirit anything around. But I feel like I
Mhm.
took some things from the Cambodian killing field, all that crap. I feel like I've taken with me, and some of these spirits may have been still with me.
Mhm.
And I was in my head, but like it was so weird. It was like my thoughts are echoing. Like I felt like I had spirits here. And I prayed, Heavenly Father, that in the name of Jesus Christ, we can have these spirits leave. And and they and it had, my thought process had changed a bit after that prayer, and then I continued back to Vietnam. And what's interesting is when I was trying to then leave Vietnam to go to my next destination, which was Dubai, I ran into a snafu, and apparently I needed a visa to go into Kochi, India, and then to Dubai, and I didn't have a visa even though it was a transfer. And so
Mm.
I'm now, oh my gosh. So that morning I dropped my phone. I'm talking to you on a broken phone right now because my internet's not working on the laptop. Thank goodness for my T-Mobile, my provider,
Right.
to grant the internet. This is not an advertisement. Uh, but T-Mobile was clutch. Like they have, where people, I couldn't get Wi-Fi or the service connection here when I connected to the service with other SIM cards too, and T-Mobile was pretty clutch with that. But I cracked my phone, and a third cracked. So the top third is visible but has no touch. The two-thirds down had no visibility,
Oh,
Oh
and
oh man.
no, yeah.
no.
So if I push my thumb directly on the place of impact, it would then start generating an image. And so then going to an airport and trying to go to another country with all this, so right now I'm
Oh
not touching my
man.
phone. There is a crack right after you guys that I can see, and like this whole thing is like split. Like all the messaging stuff's on the side, and it's split on that side of the crack, and then there's me with on this side. Uh, and so I've been in places that maybe in like these most iconic places in the world, and you need a phone, you need a camera, you
Mhm.
you need to capture this stuff. And I get to the airport, and they're like, "You're not going today if you don't have your visa." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like my phone doesn't work. How am I supposed to get a new flight? I can't even get the internet. Like,
Mhm.
and am I going to be stuck in Vietnam?" And I they couldn't help me with my laptop with internet, and I knelt down and prayed in the airport, and was just, I'm like in this, what would be a queue, but there was nobody else behind me. So I'm like, you know what? I don't care who sees. I need help. And I went to another kiosk, and she was like, yep, use this one, puts in the internet password out of the dozens of things. Like, I didn't know which one to go to. And I don't, I don't speak Vietnamese. And so she puts that in, and now I have service, right? At least on the laptop. Phone's jacked. Of what I could see on my phone before I said my prayer, the next flight that night was 3,500 US. About 3,500.
Wow.
No. And so for a visa, it's like 380. And so I'm like not seeing my option out of here. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I end up starting to apply for an India visa. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I have the spirit come over me like, like, let's pause. It's not taking your information. It's not taking the right picture. Meaning, like, whenever I keep running into snafus, I'm like, maybe that's not the way. It's another way. So I cancel the visa and find a flight through China. And the China doesn't need me to get a visa. It's like a visa on arrival. It's still a process when you get there, but it's possible. And so got a flight the next day, flew into China, got out of the airport, stayed in this rough hotel, barely able to make it there. I don't have their currency. They end up being gracious enough to give me a room back because I spent anyway, it was just like the whole system. And then ended up in Dubai, and some of the most beautiful views. Wow. Coming into now, leaving Dubai and getting into Israel, I came into Tel Aviv. And the culture here is already, I see a guy walking around with an M4, and it's just a citizen, checking into the hotel.
Ugh.
Really?
And yeah, it's like slung on his back, and I was like, hey, yeah, what's up, And I don't ever feel like threatened with that stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is their life. They're surrounded by so many hostile countries, and I, through this whole thing, I've been like looking for pieces of light. I've seen lots of darkness in this, and I'm like praying, like, where can I see the light? Like, where can I see light? Like, where can I, like, what? I want to see light. I want to see love. I want to see joy. I want to see these things. And I've had like these little elements of love come through, and I'm like, I want to see light, and this is kind of where I headed. I ended up in Tel Aviv. I didn't know how I was going to make it to Jerusalem. I wanted to see Jerusalem, but I didn't know how I was going to make it to Jerusalem. It's not cheap to get a taxi all the way here. It's not wise to. Yeah, I pray all the time, but I don't know specifically if I said the prayer. I don't know how to make it to Jerusalem, but I wouldn't surprise me if I had mentioned that as well, because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but we'll find a way. And I reached out to the French president, and he's like, no one's headed up there. Like, good luck if you want to come up here. There's a branch in Tel Aviv you can go to. And I was like, but I want to do church in Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. And I'm about to call it a night. And this guy that's in the same hostel as me, mind you, I barely fit I'm in this top bunk. There's nowhere to put your stuff. Like, I'm a bit stressed, and like, I mean, when I've done bunk beds in the military, I was usually on the bottom bunk for the most part. Like in boot camp, I was on the top, but then like as I got older, like I was always on. Also, I'm not like 9, and so personally, but I end up talking to this guy, and he goes, he's like really friendly, and he goes, hey, I'm heading to Jerusalem tomorrow. You want to come with me? Nice. I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, I want to see the sunrise. So I'll probably be leaving at like 5. Wow. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, but hey, let's get out of here. Like, let's go. They got these places with belly dancers. And I'm like in this war in my life, right? And I'm like, yeah, like, okay, like maybe like, okay, sure. So as we're walking, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why? What? Like, I keep falling into the same snare. right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, have you seen the video of like the farmer where he like gets his sheep out of the crevice and the sheep
And
like
it keeps
runs
going
out
back
and then
in.
jumps back?
Jumps back in. I love that one.
Yeah. I'm like, that's me. That's actual footage of me. So, and so as we're going though, like he goes, well, hey, let's get some like breezers. Like, let's get some some drinks in the lobby, like, that are just in the fridge. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll walk with you, man. I was like, I'm tired. He's like, oh, you're tired. You don't want to go. You're a Marine though, because he was asking if I was military and
Mm.
that he was, and um, I'm like, okay. If I mean, even Marines get tired. Give me. I'm like, I'm not I'm not a droid. I'm a freaking human. Uh, and so we go downstairs and we get these breezers, and I should have read it, but like we crack them, and I told him, I was like, I'm not drinking. I don't want to drink. Like I'm not drinking. I haven't drank in a little bit, and and so I'm drinking it. I'm like, wait a minute, I know that flavor. I'm like, bro, I told you I didn't want to drink any alcohol, and I got a little mad at him. I was like, hey, I told you. And he's like, whoa, 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 like, hey, I'm like, no, forget it. This is yours. You can have it. I'm done. I don't want to drink. Like, I was like really irritated because, not to mention, I've been traveling for a while. I'm tired. Now I got, so he ends up getting me like this other drink, and we walk for a little bit, and I kind of changed my mind. I'm like, I don't know if I want to see this stuff. And he then wants to get one of those hookahs, and I was like, no, I don't smoke. And so we end up getting this conversation about religion for sure, and I tell him about like the temples, and I show him pictures, and I show him, and he was raised Jewish, and he doesn't believe that someone came down and died for our sins here. And I was sharing my testimony, and I was sharing my things, and it kind of turned into, instead of going to like a belly dancer place, it turns into, I'm trying to obey the word of wisdom while we're talking about the gospel, essentially. And so we're walking through the streets of Tel Aviv while I'm sharing all this. Then we end up heading back. Don't get much sleep at all the 2 nights ago, and end up getting up at about 4:30. He wakes me up at 11:45 and is like, "It's time to go. It's 4:30." He was a very sweet guy, big heart. I think he was like maybe 51, but not fully processing properly, I don't think. I'm like, no, man, it's not. It's like 11. It's like 4. Go back to bed. Like, we'll get it for 4:30. So we end up getting up, and I pack all my stuff up, and we head to Jerusalem. And what's interesting is we kind of missed the sunrise. Sunrise is like, it's at 6:15. It was like at 5:50. So so we kind of missed it a little bit, but I got a cool shot. And we went to the Wailing Wall, and feel the Spirit a whole lot with. I felt the Spirit coming into Jerusalem. It's a special, essentially, of course, it's a special place. It's the Holy Land, and it's where Christ was all throughout that area. And but when I went to a lot of these specific sites, I didn't feel the Spirit. I went and saw there's different places that you do a transition into this Muslim community as well, and there's lots of armed Israelis, border patrol that are there, and trying to make sure they keep the peace, and you got to put your, they'll check your bags and things like that. And there's so many devout Orthodox Jews, and there's so many of these devout denominations. And the Muslims don't celebrate what's called Shabbat. So I was there for yesterday for Shabbat. I mean, right there, smack dab in Jerusalem. I'm going to go there today as well, which is really special and cool because of where I'm going to go. But while I was there yesterday during Shabbat, very busy, very interesting on where to take pictures and where not to, because it is their holy day. But we got back to the car, and we realized the battery was actually almost dead in the car. And he's like, do you need it? I need to make it there by 10:30. Like, can we go to charging station? Like, I don't know how we're going to do the charging station thing. We didn't really accommodate for time well. He's like, well, can you go by 11? I was like, no, this is like a 10:30. If I need to catch a cab, I will. If I need to catch that cab and it was in front of us, then I will. Oh, okay. I was like, oh, shoot, I may need to. So I get out, and I try to talk to the cab driver, and he doesn't speak much English. So he gets out and talks to him. He's like, yeah, he'll be able to take you. So he takes me the rest of the way to BYU Jerusalem Center, and I make it on time. I'm getting my little pictures before church starts, and end up and I ended up getting asked to give the closing prayer, which is special because I don't remember ever. I don't think I've ever given a prayer in a congregation before, like in like elders quorum, sure, but like in church, like in sacrament, no. And so I said the closing prayer, and it was very heartfelt, and it was very special. You know, our view. So you have the pulpit, and behind the pulpit's all windows, and it's overlooking Jerusalem.
Wow.
And so you see, like, you know, like the rock dome, and the, you know, there's like all the wall, like, you know, it's really, really special. So we're like right there. And it was interesting because I was speaking with I think it was they have a branch president, and then there was a district president there. And we were talking, I was talking about my journey of finding love, light, and joy, and how I told him, and this is what's weird, is all these images started flashing into my head of all the interactions I'd even just had that day with the Israeli Defense Force, Border Patrol, and like all the marks I leave on people, and all the smiles that leave, and all the inspiration of people wanting to work out. Or it's like once we get done with an interaction, there's always like this element of happiness or fun, or you know what I mean, like. And I'd seen this quote a while back saying, like, if you can't see, it's almost like if everything seems dark with you, maybe it's because you're the light. And so as I was talking with this district president, I'm like, wow, maybe the blessing of seeing the light is because my interactions that I have with all these different people and what I leave with them is that light that I'm able to see. And it's being worked through me, as if God is working through me to these people to like share this light. And he's like, yeah, well, maybe you need to see that you have a light about you. I was like, that's exactly what I'm saying, though, is that he's been utilizing me to have this light shared with others, and seeing the light. I don't need to look around. I just need to be with people and see that there's a connection that is of light that I'm having with these people. Because when we leave, like, there's smiles, and and sure, do I have negative interactions? For sure. I'm a human being, and definitely I'm going to have those forever too. But this element of seeking light, and then realizing it's literally like the mark that's left on these people by just sharing. And I guess you could say, in terms of loving those people, you know, connecting with others, and having the hugs and the selfies and the conversations and the smiles and all those things, all these imagery had flashed through of like, that's the light. It's what you're able to pass through you and share with others. And if you can recognize that, I don't want to just say positive thing, but if you can recognize that mark that you've left with them, that's like God's mark. That's his light that you can share and leave with others. And I was getting a little emotional sharing that with the district president, because I was like, it was kind of coming all together. But this is what's wild too. I didn't know how I was going to get back to Tel Aviv, because that's where I'm staying. That's where I'm flying out of. And one of the members just happens to be a tour guide, and he's like, "Hey, if you want to, I'll do a tour guide tomorrow for you. I'll hook up the members. It's like a 5-hour tour. We'll go to Gethsemane. We'll go to. I think we're going to go to a lot of these very, very historically important sites with Jesus Christ." And he's like, "I'm going to take you on that tour,
like in a few
and I'm going to do it." Yeah. I'm actually going to head. I need to head over in about an hour and a half. I got a hotel close to where he's staying, so I'm actually going to get all my stuff together and go over to where he lives. And he's an American, but he's stationed here.
Okay.
And I'm going to leave all my stuff, and then we're gonna leave my big stuff, and then we're going to go see all the hot spots in Jerusalem, and then I'm gonna just play it by ear on how I'm gonna get back to Tel Aviv, because I'm moving forward in a one-way valve, and it's working out. You know,
wow.
it's like
that takes some courage.
Yeah,
this whole trip takes us. Like, if you don't have a testimony, like, this would be hell. This whole trip would be hell.
Yeah.
But but it's like I'm walking one step at a time in this dark, and it keeps getting illuminated as I walk.
I
You
love
know?
that image. I love that. Yeah. Let us know what next little miracles you run into and what other things you buy from little kids in the streets.
I know. I'm such a sucker for that stuff. This was actually
Grab
from
an
one of
ice
the.
cream.
I know. Do you see this thing right here?
Yeah.
This is the Israeli Police Border Patrol patch.
That is so cool.
And they since I have the carbon unicorn patches, we were talking about military stuff. They wanted a patch for me. I was like, I don't have any Marine Corps patches. I just have my business patches. And they wanted them so bad. And so
Oh.
I gave, so they ended up, I gave them that. And then one of them gave me like this little keychain thing. But this, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's kind of
That's so
wild because
neat.
in Vietnam last year, this was up in Sapa, the one that said I looked like Peter with getting pulled out of
Oh,
the
okay.
water. She
I
gave me
remember
this
that
little
story.
guy.
That is so neat. So let me ask you, I mean, like doing all these travels, I always think to myself, like, oh, it would be so cool to go do all that kind of stuff. Is there a little part of you that is kind of like missing home, like missing being stateside and just like the things that we have here, even though it's not perfect, even though we're kind of, we've got our own crap going on and whatever else. Like, how are you feeling about home, I guess?
What got me out in the first place is that I have, without the gym community and my church community, I have like, it's people are like, I like to spend time alone and things like that. Well, I have spent a lot of time alone, a lot. And it's been very overwhelming at times. And so even though I like the time that I spend by myself, it's very hard. And I don't have a tremendous amount of time with my kids. And that gets really hard when, you have this great weekends and you have these great little experiences, and then it's just you and the house is quiet and it's just kind of gloomy. And then you start getting reminded of all those feelings that you had 5 months prior, 5.5 months, with all my weird experiences that I
Yeah.
had. And it makes me feel very isolated, alone, kind of ostracized from the world. And I thought maybe leaving would help me to get out of that, to connect with the world. And I have connected with so many cultures and people. Like, it's, I think it's one of my knacks. It's one of my gifts is I'm able to connect with mankind, I think. And, um, Muslim, Jewish, doesn't matter. Like, any shade on your skin, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. What matters is my ability to do so. And I've tried to learn a greeting and thank you in a lot of languages. I can say it in so many languages. Russian, Spanish, and Portuguese, and Japanese, and Chinese, and German, and and I feel like they're always good conversation starters to bring it together. So, do I miss being home, like on the family aspect? Yeah. I make sure that I'm still synced with connecting and sending pictures and things like that. And matter of fact, I was on the top of the Burj Khalifa and called my dad. I thought it'd be special for him to like get that phone call on the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
To check in with him. And I sent my son some pictures from the top while I was there, and just I'm trying to keep people in mind but I have such a heavy, tremendous amount of sadness that I'm trying to push through in my life and kind of get past that. I know the way through, past stuff is through it, and I have been working through so many of these negative feelings. And so I feel like in order for me to maybe enjoy while I'm home, I'm kind of pushing through the war while I'm out here. If that makes sense. So
It does. It
yeah,
makes sense.
I feel like this is the 2 episodes we've done with you. It feels like you are like a work in progress, I guess would be the best way to explain it from my perspective. But I love that you're trying to find, like we said at the beginning, the pursuit. You're trying to find the pursuit of light, love, and joy in your life. And you're doing it through a way that most of us never actually have the chance to, because
And that
we
we're
get
not
tied
brave enough to
down.
try, right? Like I think a lot of
Yeah.
us are just too scared to even do it. So it's amazing to see.
Yeah.
Well, and you've
I
pushed some boundaries that most people, especially members of the church, wouldn't. And so it's you take a different approach to life, to the gospel, and I think that's from your life experience
Mm-hmm.
and the things you've gone through. But I love that you can see God, you can see the gospel in your life in the craziest places.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's faith promoting.
Yeah,
oh,
absolutely.
means a
It
lot.
reminds
I appreciate that.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of we had Daniel Adams on and he talked about kind of going to the fringe, like in his pursuit. Like he had served a mission and done all these things and then he had this whole experience where he didn't really know where he was at or what he believed and so he tried a lot of really uh very like going to the fringe is what he calls it, things that are outside of what you would hear in the gospel that members, would kind of be like, oh, but he learned a lot in being that person that went there. Not that he was advocating that everybody needs to go there because some people, they don't know when to stop and then they fall off the edge and then they're lost and then it's this whole thing. But he was able to use it to bring him back, to help him get recentered and to find truth and to solidify his testimony. And it sounds like there are things that you're learning too, which I think we're all doing that, like in our own ways. We're all pushing boundaries sometimes and and we're being the sheep that keep jumping into the crevices over and over again. Like we all do that in our own ways. And so it's just neat that you're here and that you're like sharing that with us, But Devin, I love, and I'm going to take this with me. I love when you said that, sometimes Heavenly Father just says, "Okay, stop and tell me what you see." Stop and tell me what you see, and how you mentioned that you're always thinking about like, how is this story, how is right now going to fit into a story? I love that perspective because I think it kind of can take you out of the funk and be like, okay, this
No,
is
yeah.
just that. This is just that part that makes it exciting, right? This is the part that makes the readers want to turn the next page because we got to find out what happens next. And
Right.
so
Right.
I love
Yeah.
that. I'm going to take that. I'm going to teach it to my kids too. It's just like, stop and tell me what you see,
I wonder. I appreciate that. When I was in the airport, and I ended up kneeling down and praying after I got like my next flight booked. I got my hotel in the same place I was staying at. I got another night with them booked. Like everything flowed through, and people would be like, "Why, God? Why do I go through this?" And I'm like, "Thank you, God. Thank you, because I got myself into this mess. Thanks for helping me get out of it." Like, you know,
Yeah. You
because
jumped
that's
back in the
it, right?
crevice.
Yeah. He's like, all right, Aaron, let me help you out. And I just want to put like, Scott, you had mentioned some things regarding like, I'm doing a very unique thing right now. I was the only foreigner. I feel like I was the only foreigner in Jerusalem yesterday. Uh, well, of what I saw, definitely the only American. But I mean, I didn't see anybody that looked like they were tourists.
Mhm.
And
Well, especially
so
now,
what? Oh
there's a
yeah,
lot of scary
Everything
stuff
going on.
happening. It doesn't make
yeah.
people want to go.
I got pretty interrogated to come here as well. Like I had my stuff. I had all sorts of questions. They went through my passport, asked me about countries I went in the past, what I did. Like they asked about my contacts. They took all my stuff, like behind, like where I couldn't see, and swabbed all the areas for like gunpowder, explosive material, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then I got taken to the ticket counter. I mean, like it was pretty invasive because of all that are constantly. But there's this one piece, sorry, that just came into my mind. People keep talking about like, oh, everybody's always fighting each other and everything. Well, there's like 130, 160 people still missing, Israelis missing from Hamas, those Palestinians, right? The extreme organization of the Palestinians, Hamas. And what I observed was people singing and laughing and dancing and in Tel Aviv, and families and music and people riding
Wow.
bikes and scooters, and people were living life. And
Mhm.
next to my hotel, there's also a bomb shelter. So I mean, there's this war that we're in, but like they're experiencing joy in their life, and it's pretty awesome. It's pretty amazing.
Mhm.
And while in Jerusalem, I was surrounded, there was like all these little kids on the Muslim side going to a Christian church. There's Muslims and Jews alike, like all other, like in between, like the Damascus Gate and the Wailing Wall, and this whole section in between. There's all these cultures, and everybody is living amongst each other, and it's fine. Now, do we have armed border patrol in areas making sure that peace is maintained? Yes, but the media doesn't show you that people are also getting along, and that people are laughing, and people are doing good exchanges, and people are doing business with one another, But there is definitely a lot of people that are still missing, and it breaks my heart because. So sorry, and that was kind of a tangent. But Scott, to your mark, with a lot of people won't be able. Anybody can travel. Let me just put it out there. If you can get a passport, you can go. A lot of people's limiting beliefs let them not travel, including my own parents. They're like, I would never be able to do that. Okay, you're right. I wouldn't be able to do that. Like, my dad is very successful, and he has a lot of cool things. But he's like, I don't think I'd ever be able to. It's like, based on what you've done in your life, you don't think you can get a plane ticket? You know what I mean? And so, and then my mom, same thing. Like, oh, I'll never be able to. And it's like, not with that attitude. Like, and, like you don't need to travel the world to figure this out. I'm in a unique place because of what I've gone through in my life, that I'm going to extreme measures because I'm kind of an extreme human being with a lot of my internal conflict and things like that, with some things. But I want people to know that you don't need to travel the world to figure this out. The thing is there's two elements, and it's doing things you don't want to, but that they're good. So that's a huge piece, and having faith with that. And
which we've all already done, right? If we're here, we're part of the 2/3 that already did that.
Oh, for real. Yeah. We all took the ultimate leap of faith, right? And if you're already like, you're like, that doesn't feel like good temporally, but I know it's good for me spiritually. Okay. Or you know what? Working out doesn't feel good. Okay. Is it good for you though? Yeah. Well, and so maybe find something that seems not
Devin, I'll go to the dang gym. Jeez, no.
Right.
After I eat some cotton candy tonight now.
Cotton candy of all things.
That really is my it's my vice. Wow. I tell my kids, I say I could be drinking, okay, but cotton candy is
your vice.
I don't know why. And
you're like at a bar with a big cone, with a big fluffed cone. That's funny. No, I all these things that I've been doing have been in leaps of faith, of like not knowing what the next step is. Tomorrow I leave to Egypt.
Wow.
And
nice.
And so guys, I have to go through immigration with that. I have a visa I got for that. Before I went back to the airport to then fly finally to Dubai, when I was having all the Vietnamese issue, with the visa and all that, I had so much anxiety the morning of going to the airport. I'm like, I don't want to feel like this again. You know what? But if I don't go to the airport, I don't have to feel like this. I don't have to worry about getting denied or paying for another ticket or being stressed to stay here. I'm like, yeah, you don't have to possibly experience those again or stay here and then you're trapped. Like, how about you just roll the dice, take the chance of maybe experiencing that again, and just go through it. And it was actually streamlined. I went right through. Everything was like super, but I had all this stress beforehand because of what I went through, that I didn't want to, I was stressed to move forward.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, Devin, the only way is forward. So just move anyway. And here I am now past Dubai, now in Jerusalem, heading back to Tel Aviv tonight and pushing out to Egypt tomorrow. You know what I mean? I'm like, you got to keep moving forward. And so, but okay, so the rest of the itinerary, we can close this out. But after Egypt, I'm heading up to Greece. And then I'll be pushing over to Rome and taking a train to Venice, back to Rome, and then a train back to Rome, flying up to Madrid. Mind you, I got that flight for $15, just to let you know there's things that are possible.
Wow.
So it was $40, and I had a $25 credit. So nice. What it's possible to do with like I could do a whole little thing on like points and finding deals and all this stuff, but there is ways to travel that if you want to do it, get a passport, do it. It's just, I'm living proof it's possible. So,
Nice.
so from Madrid, I'm taking a train to Barcelona, and then from Barcelona, I'm flying to Paris. So out of Paris, I'm going to take a train to Munich, Germany, and then from Munich, Germany, I'm heading back home. So it's
Oh
5
my
weeks,
gosh.
constantly moving. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I cannot wait to see more of your footage and to just hear more of your stories and stuff like that. I think it's going to be really, really awesome, and it's definitely inspiring. I mean, here it is. It's midnight my time, and I'm
Wow.
kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, like I wonder where I could go. Like I'm kind of
Good.
the wheels are starting to
Good.
turn. Like, but I got dang kids, so how do I? Maybe I just got to leave them behind.
Yeah.
I'll send
I
him
mean,
to
you can
Scott's
do it.
house. That's what I'll do. I'll send him to Scott's house.
Yeah.
I'll go travel for a while.
Do a 5-day.
Oh.
You could do 7-day. You could do,
There you go.
you could do,
Yeah, no, it sounds
4-day,
awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm really excited for you, and I'm gonna challenge you if you feel so inclined to take this challenge. When you go to Gethsemane today, leave the stuff that is eating you up there. Just drop it.
Wow.
Just leave it there. Try to do that, and just see what happens, because maybe the rest of your trip doesn't have to have any more darkness, and it doesn't have to have any more struggle, and it can just be light, and you
Wow.
can just be completely yoked with the Savior. And so that's my challenge
Yeah.
to you.
Wow. Challenge accepted. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Any
Felt
last
the-
thoughts,
felt
Devin,
the-
before you go to Gethsemane today?
Felt the spirit on that. So thanks. No, I feel like this is the right route. We made this work. You guys are awesome for making this possible. It dawned on me yesterday. I was like, I should probably reach out to Alicia and see if this is possible. You've crossed my mind a few. Both, you guys in my mind with doing this for a bit on the stretch, and I didn't know when would be the time to do it, because we talked about maybe doing it while out here. It didn't dawn on me that this Jerusalem would be the place to do this.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm
I
excited for you.
appreciate you guys. No, I appreciate that. You guys are part of this journey too.
I love it.
Clearly, here we are.
I love it. Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Well, Devin, I hope that you have a fantastic trip, and that everything, just comes together and continues to help, do what it is that you're doing, which is obviously bringing some light to the world. So I think it's going to be a good thing for you. So,
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Alicia.
yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on again. We appreciate you coming on here and sharing all of your stories and your insights and stuff with us, and just kind of teaching us a way to live a little more courageously and to do the hard a little bit better. And so we really appreciate you. And to our listeners too, of course, we love you guys. We love that you guys tune in, and we just hope that, today, as you guys listen to Devin's story, that you guys got something out of it as well. Maybe you're feeling an inkling to be a little more courageous and to bring some light to the people who are just right there in your own home or your own community or your own town, wherever you're at. Or maybe it's time for you to, dust off your passport or get one for the first time ever. I don't have one yet. So maybe it's time. Yeah, definitely, to be safe. So thank you guys all for tuning in, and make sure that you guys do your 5-second missionary work. Hit that share button, and let's get Devin's episode out there for everybody else.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks again, Devin. And thanks, everybody. And we will talk to you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good one.